The Justice Department opening a landmark antitrust case against Google in a Virginia federal court yesterday. The DOJ in 17 states are accusing Google's parent company, Alphabet, of monopolizing the advertising technology market and, quote, a systematic campaign to seize control of different digital tools to eliminate competitors. Now, Google denies the claims, writing, quote, no one is forced to use our advertising technologies. They choose to use them because they're effective. Now, this is the third monopoly case against Google. Joining me now is Competitive Enterprise Institute Director of the Center for Technology and Innovation, Jessica Melugin. Jessica, your thoughts. Obviously, what do you think the possible outcomes of this case are? Because prosecutors say that Google, is abusing their power, saying this would be like Goldman or Citibank owning the NYSE. And they say this means higher prices for advertisers, small businesses, but fewer dollars for publishers, the content that's being put on these platforms. The platform, excuse me.
Yeah, so I think the argument, this is actually, a lot of experts agree, one of the stronger cases of the variety of big anti-tech monopoly cases right now. But I still think the government has an uphill battle here. The standard in the U.S. for antitrust is consumer harm. So you show some kind of harm. That can mean higher prices, less output, a lack of innovation, and we don't see any of that. In fact, we see just the opposite in ad tech. There's more of it than ever. It's becoming more and more affordable. It's easier to use. The ads are targeted more accurately. That's not what you would traditionally see in a stagnated, monopolized market, right? That looks like a very competitive marketplace. So the government has its work cut out for it, proving otherwise.
Well, and Google calls the allegations wrong on the facts, and they say, quote, success is not illegal.
That's right, and neither is a really high market share if you've earned it, right? If you just have a better product that people like more and you're not doing anything illegal to obtain that number or hold that number, you're not committing a crime. So that's what the government has to prove here, not just that Google is really, really good with its ad tech, we know that it did something illegally to get those kinds of high market share numbers. And I will also point out that one thing you have to do in a monopoly case is define what that market is, right? If you're saying someone's a monopolist, what are they monopolizing? And in this case, the government's taken a really, really narrow view of where ad tech is happening. They've completely cut out all the ads we see on social media, on retail sites like Amazon, and on streaming connected television. So if you kind of pull back the lens and look at how do we as consumers really see ads, their definition of that is so narrow. It's just on these websites. That's not really realistic. And then we see that a lot in antitrust cases. The reality of what's happening in the market is so far ahead, and these cases lag. I think that's what we might see in the next 4 weeks over the course of this trial.
Interesting. Well, the Wall Street Journal is out with an opinion piece titled "Is the Google breakup coming?" Very fair question here. And here's what they write. So where is the consumer harm? Government shouldn't penalize companies for success. Big is bad isn't sound policy. Government-driven breakups often fail. Carol Roth, I want to bring you into this because you say, look, one of the things that Google is doing is hurting small businesses by their dominance in this particular space.
Yeah, I think that's something that certainly should be considered. But my bigger concern is where this goes in terms of the global impact. If you think about this antitrust case, right now we saw that the top European court upheld a $2.5 billion fine against Google, for antitrust reasons. If we have our own government going after Google, does that not then give the European Union more fodder to go after our companies and continue to bleed them out of cash?
Jessica, that's a great question. And also, what does this mean for the industry overall? These companies have been fighting against the European Union in particular for years. And now they're getting, the DOJ is coming after them. Like, where does it end?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Listen, we're so lucky to have, I think, 7 or 8, depending on the day by market cap, of the top global tech companies call America home. It's a huge competitive advantage for us. It's actually almost a matter of national security. Europe doesn't have one of the top 10, and there's a reason. That's because their regulatory environment is so harsh, and it does punish success. We don't need to emulate that here in the U.S., right? Gil's right. We can consider all the harms or not harms to small businesses. All that should be looked at. That's all reasonable. But to say something is bad because it's big and successful is certainly not the American way.
Do you think that there is going to be a push to break up Google?
The government is asking for part of this ad manager, part of Google's business to be spun off if they're successful in court. I don't know if they will be. We'll have to wait and see. But I think that's certainly what the Biden, FTC, and DOJ are aiming for, right? They want to expand the regulatory reach of antitrust. And I think that the motivation here for a lot of these big companies is ultimately to break off pieces, if not break them up altogether.
All right. We need to run. But Carol, same question to you, though.
Yeah, I mean, here's my issue with the breakup is that how does that solve it? If you have dominance in ad search and you break it up and it's still dominant, what exactly have you solved other than making it less efficient? So I understand that this is an important topic to debate, but is really a breakup going to solve whatever issue it is that they're putting forth?
All right. Well, Jessica Melugin, thank you for joining us. It is a fascinating case and one that's going to be closely watched around the world. So we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right.